Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the 2024 New York Giants Rush Draft Show. So tonight, we're going over the wide receivers. We're going over 15 different dudes. So we're going to try to hit on them at bullet point level, deep dive if we need to, if we feel like any of these dudes are legit and they're being overlooked, or vice versa. We're going to spend a little bit extra time on them, all right? But first and foremost, let's introduce the guys. Truth, what is going on, man?
What's up, Spartan? This is a good one, guys. Wide receiver. I'm looking forward to this one.
This is a good one. Last time the Giants won wide receiver in the first round, it didn't really work out too well. I'm hoping they can recover if that's what they end up doing.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah. Sean, what is going on, man? I want to introduce you to. You are the special guest tonight, but not really because you are part of the Rush family. What's going on, brother?
What's up, Sergeant? What's up, Truth? How we doing, man? Excited.
Yeah, this is a good one. I like this one. I'm looking forward all day for this one.
Yeah. Yep. So, listen, I'm going to ask a couple things. What are we'll start from the top, all right? Giants wide receivers. We don't really have a good wide receiver set right now. We got a couple guys that can really fight for the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 spot. But let's be real. The Giants haven't had like a true number 1 receiver since Odell left. And because of this, it's been a headache. And you can argue it's been very challenging for Jones or any of the QBs to really get up and running and have that explosive offense because we're missing that wide receiver 1, right? So here's the thing, though. The debate is that because the offense is so fragmented in terms of not having a good O-line, not having a good established quarterback, that what might be the point of drafting a wide receiver in 2024? Maybe it's an issue that you wait for until 2025. I want to start with both you guys real quick. Sean, we'll go with you first. What do you think the odds are the Giants use the 6th pick on a wide receiver?
I mean, depending how the quarterbacks fall, I know I've said a couple times, put a post out there. I think there's a chance that a good quarterback will drop down to 6 or in the range where they could possibly trade up. But if the top 3 go top 3, I like going receiver at 6 because you can trade back up. There's some other guys you can get at the quarterback spot later on to pair with them. So, again, it all depends on how it plays out. Personally, I think they'll end up getting a quarterback early. But if they don't, these receivers, I think it's a good move. You pair wide receiver 1 type with Wan'Dale and Jalen, and then you had Slayton in that mix there as well. I think that's a hell of a receiving core, some good weapons, and I think they can do some damage.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Truth, I'm going to hand it over to you, but real quick, all the fans that are out there in the section right now, tell me what you guys are thinking. I mean, if the Giants don't go quarterback in the first round, what do you want them to do? Want to go receiver, lineman? Those are generally the first couple of options. I mean, I suppose they could go with edge, but I don't know.
Back.
I think the issue, Truth, and Sean, you were on the show the other night. No, you weren't on the show. My apologies. But Paul Dottino was on the show, and he said that there might not be any edge rusher worth that pick. And that's kind of the issue at hand with the 6th pick. You could argue, you can make some arguments, but there's no clear cut like Micah Parsons out there, right?
Right. And he didn't even go 6, right?
He did. No. It doesn't mean they won't. Again, it doesn't mean, and listen, if the Giants do get one, if they turn out to be dominant, go for it. I mean, do whatever they have to do, but I just don't see it because the other argument, and Truth, really want to hand it over to you to talk about this. The other argument is that they could go with Joe Alt at 6. What would you rather see the Giants do if they don't get a quarterback in the first round? Would you rather see them get a lineman or a wide receiver?
That's a tough one. You got Joe Alt, who primarily plays your left tackle, right? I think that's what he did at Notre Dame in his career. Moving him over to right tackle, which is what the plan would be at the 6th spot. I don't know if they'll do that. Would I be upset? No, I wouldn't be upset. But I don't think they'll do that. I think that the quarterback's not there, like Sean mentioned. I think the wide receiver is a good bet that they're going to go.
Yeah.
Because that would probably be best player available. You can argue that Bowers could be the best player available. I don't think so. I think the wide receiver would be. And we're going to mention 2 of those guys in particular at that number 6 spot. But I think, this is such a deep draft for wide receivers. Yeah. You guys know this. I mean, and I know the fans do.
This is the best receiver group we've looked at now. We've been doing this this is our 3rd year doing this. We were running out of steam with a lot of the receivers later on in the night. Not really with this one. And the thing that makes it a little bit tough, too, and will speak to it. I mean, a lot of these guys play at the same school, and
Yeah, that's right.
almost equal.
And we're probably all going to mention those guys in this broadcast.
Exactly.
those
I've
guys.
never seen anything like this. I think there were 2 Texas running backs last year that we were going over. Truth, but I don't remember like multiple dudes at the same school, except for
Yeah.
Alabama in 2020. But we weren't covering it back then.
You know, when I was looking at this group of wide receivers, and we all had picked 5 guys. I was debating because I could have picked 5 different guys than the ones I picked. That's how deep this class is.
Yeah.
I think it's really deep into day 3. You're going to get some talented wide receivers.
Yeah, and
So-
there's going to be some guys that are shooting up the draft boards as we get closer to the combine. When combine
Oh, yeah.
happens, that
Combine's
people
big.
are talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, definitely. It's deep. It's deep in our. I think quarterback, wide receiver, it's as deep as it's been in a while. And
And tackle.
I think
And offensive tackle, Shawnee.
Yeah,
Right?
yep. Which I think is going to make some interesting thing on teams may not be as greedy or as needy to move up or do. I think it makes some interesting thing come draft night because they know there's talent there. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very interesting point with the receivers too. I mean, it's we're talking about these guys, and the last show we're talking quarterbacks. We're talking about what the Giants are doing with the 6th pick, assuming they're probably, even if they're not at 6, it's going to be first round. But a lot of these dudes are going to be available day 2 and day 3, and they're a difference maker, right? Sean, you had a good point about the combine. It's a little bit tough with wide receivers because their production on the field depends heavily on the quarterback play too.
Yep.
And so that they got to assess, how does a dude from Ohio State compare to a dude at US, South Carolina or
Yep.
Western Kentucky, right? When you start doing the measurements, things might even out a little bit more. But we'll see what happens. I say we get right into it. Sean, we'll start with you, and we'll start with a name that's very often going to the Giants on a lot of mock boards, right?
Yep.
Rome Odunze out of
Yeah.
Washington. Played
Yep.
with Penix, had a hell of a year. Tell me your thoughts about the dude.
Yeah. So the first thing that I'll say is, in my opinion, he's that alpha, he's that dog, he's that definite wide receiver 1. He's that difference maker that you can put in your offense, and he's gonna day 1 is gonna do something, right? Like, you just look at his size. I mean, he's 6'3", 216, and he runs a 4.3, 4.40, which will probably be faster come the combine, right? So that'll go down. Last year he had 92 receptions, over 1,600 yards, 13 TDs, and he averaged 17.8 yards per reception. So he can play inside, he can play slot. He does a lot of screens, which we've seen the Giants utilize that in their offense. So you can really put the ball in his hands a lot. What I like about him too is he's an excellent route runner. He's very smooth. He's got wiggle to him, and he definitely has strong hands. So those are the qualities that really stick out to me. And I think, again, when you put him in, he's going to make a difference. He's an impact player right away, in my opinion. He's obviously, we all know MHJ is top, right? He's not far behind. He's not far behind, So that's my take on him, man. I really like him. The more I research, the more I look at him, and seeing all the mocks with him into the Giants, I'm all for him. I'm all for him.
For sure. Yeah, so you totally think he'd be worth like the 6th pick. If the Giants go receiver at 6, Odunze, you would find that acceptable?
I'd be pretty happy with Odunze at 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I love MHJ, right? Harrison Jr., no doubt about it. But if we're talking Rome here and going there, absolutely. Again, I just think what I like is his size, because you look at some of the other guys, and you'll see what the other guys are going to talk about. There's a common theme here, the guys I'm covering for the most part. But you need that. To me, you need that taller guy to balance out what the Giants already have. They're slot machine right now.
Yeah.
So you need that. To me, you need that guy who's going to be that height and that size and strength. But he also, you're not taking away speed. Again, 4.3 40 before the combine. What's not to love about that?
No doubt whatsoever. Well, Truth, any final thoughts on the dude before we move on to Keon?
Well, yeah, because most of the mock drafts, and I've looked at hundreds of mock drafts, and the majority of the wide receiver is Neighbors, and we're going to get into him. But like Shawnee says, you look at Neighbors, if he's 1A, this is Odunze's 1B or 1A as well. They're so evenly matched, I think, when you look at their talent level. But like Shawnee says, you got this guy who's big and he can run. And Shawnee, you talk about his strong hands. He also has a good catch radius too. I mean, he catches the ball away from his body so well and in traffic. I mean, those are two elements that are really valuable because you can't expect the quarterback to get the ball right there every time. You know, at some point, right?
And you don't need him to go deep all the time. He can go deep, but you don't need him to go deep. He can.
No, he gets good slants, right?
Exactly.
Right?
He can take that slant and he can take it deep, you know, from there. So it's nice. So depending on, you know, who it is, that again, and being that he's a good route runner, I mean, he can get open. He knows how to get open. He knows how to work the DBs to get himself open, get a little bit of separation. And again, you watch him and you see him like, again, my opinion, he's that alpha.
Yep. And yards after the catch, he's right up there with the best of them.
And looking around, there was the comp that I saw that really struck me was he's been comped to Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay.
And I don't think too many people will be upset with a Larry Fitzgerald type.
I don't think so.
Two decades of good receivers, right?
Yep. So
all right. Well, how about this dude? The former Michigan State. I don't blame him for transferring. But God damn, when I saw him live, it was incredible because we had a horrible quarterback situation in 2022, and the dude still killed it. Like you could tell he was going to be a top dude, a wide receiver, transferred because he needs to have legit play. I get it. He did actually do a little bit of basketball at Michigan State too. Tom Izzo rolled him out there. So I'm a big fan of the dude. And, you know, him going to Florida State and balling out, it was fun to see. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of upside, a lot of potential. Again, another guy, 6'4", 216, 4'4", 540. So I'm gonna guess he'll get that down. It's not slow, but you know, it's for his size. I think he could get down where that needs to be. Another guy that he played inside, he played wide, so he can do that versatility. His production last year, and I know some of the things that went on there, but his production wasn't great. I mean, 50 for 658, 11 TDs and 13.2, but the guy is a contested catch monster. I mean, he talk about catch radius when you mentioned earlier with Odunze, dude, like this guy's catch radius. He's a red zone guy. Like I think he'll be a red zone monster, and he's big and strong, no doubt about it. I think the thing that where he also adds value is special teams value. When you look at what he did with punt returns and that, I think he was like top in the nation. I saw a stat the other day. I think it was the top or in the top 4. So he also brings that, which is nice. So I think huge upside in this guy. He's going to get better, but he's got to get refined. But I love his size. I love what he can do, and I love that he has special teams value.
Yeah, that definitely works. Truth, anything else to add?
No, he's another big body guy he's not as fast as Odunze, but he runs good routes. And like Shawnee just said, he's very good in traffic catching the football. So he's a good player, despite that his stats may be a little low, that what you expect of a first round pick. But sometimes, you know, stats are misleading either direction. It's misleading.
And again, when he was already dealing with another dude on the team that's going to get drafted pretty highly at wide receiver. So, and mind you, the quarterbacks got hurt towards the end of the season too.
That's right.
You know, that was one of the challenges that they faced later on. But, you know, in the games early on when they had all the people, all the person, I mean, he was killing it out there.
Yeah, and Travis Jordan was a good quarterback, but he's not a thrower like a Michael Penix is, you know. So those little things add up. You talk about, you know, wide receiver needs to have that quarterback who slings it, you know.
No,
his athletic ability is huge, and again, I think he'll test out big time at the combine. And then I've seen some mocks where they have him go into like the Chiefs, you know, late first round.
That's a great pick for the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
That would be a great pick for the Chiefs.
Yep.
They don't have a big wide receiver like that. That'd be a great pick for them.
That'd be a dangerous one. He is a sleeper right now, falling behind some of the top dudes in the draft. I'm telling you. And who had some words to say? Oh, piss off, Cold. I already admitted it.
My man, Cold.
Coming in cold. God damn. Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina.
Yeah. This is a guy, let me tell you, he's going to shoot up draft boards as we get close to the combine. When the combine hits, there's no doubt in my mind. He's a late bloomer, so that's part of it. I'll throw the two comps out there that I've seen: DK Metcalf and Debo Samuel. So two pretty good comps right there. His production last year. Well, let me say this: he's 6'3", 227. He ran a 4.3 flat 40. So you got true speed at that size is incredible. He's mostly the outside, so I don't think he has that versatility to play on the inside as much from what I saw. I'm sure you can do bubble screens and everything else with him if need be. His production last year was crazy. 71 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 7 TDs, and he averaged 17.7 per catch. So he's got that smooth speed, like you don't realize how fast he is because he kind of glides, so he can easily get past the defender. That deceptive speed. He's got to run. Again, he's a late bloomer, but he's another guy with high catch radius. He's a vertical threat, no doubt about it, and he's a smooth route runner from those things. So I think his potential is huge, but it's a guy that, again, he's going to start shooting up. He made some noise at the Senior Bowl. People were talking about him. He's been shooting up. So, this is a guy that a lot of potential, a lot of upside, and I think could be a monster.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Shawnee and Spartan, I think the combine this year, particularly with the wide receivers, is going to be very exciting to watch. You're going to see a ton of guys shooting up the draft board.
Yeah.
I think you will. And this kid's a moose. This kid, like Shawnee says, he becomes like a running back or a tight end when he catches that ball. He's a very strong guy, like Debo Samuels is. He's built like that. He's a strong kid, and he runs mean when he has the ball. You're not going to take him down with an arm tackle.
Again, 6'3", 227. I mean, that's big.
That's
I know Bears just talking about like Hyatt in there and stuff, but Hyatt's a toothpick compared to Leggett. So it's a nice balance if you have two speed guys with that size. So put him with Hyatt, put him with Wandale. Like that's a nice receiving trio right there.
Oh yeah.
So
I like this
all right. What about Ladd McConkey? Stick with the SEC here. This dude's been on the team. I feel like this dude's been on the team for a minute because I remember always kind of like seeing him out there. Georgia's defense kind of gets all the gold stars and everything like that. But I mean, their offense was pretty steady. Bowers was kind of the bigger name down there of the receiving core. He's the tight end. Tell me about Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, so he's kind of my sleeper at this point, and the reason why is he's 6 foot 185, so his size is going to keep him down. If he was taller, he would be up there with all these other names, no doubt about it. He's got a 4.5 40, so again, he's not going to test off the charts there. I think I'm going to assume that's going to go down when he gets to the combine. But he's got a 15.9 average per reception, which is pretty good. He dealt with an injury last year, so his production was down. But he's an excellent route runner, and he really turned heads at the Senior Bowl. Like nobody could guard him at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Even the best corner, the Toledo corner, couldn't even guard him. He was just unbelievable in his routes. He's got extremely strong hands. Couple interesting comps. One interesting one, but obviously people are going to put, when you the Cooper Kupp comp out there for him, which makes sense to me. But one that I read about and saw was Doug Baldwin, which I think is a.
Hold on, let me cut you off real quick. Is he a relation to Phil McConkey?
He's not. He's not. I was hoping so. I looked it up.
That would have been so great, right?
Like a couple years ago, I looked it up. Like, man, is that Phil's kid? No relation. No relation.
Oh.
I know.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. With a question like that, you got to cut me off. But yeah, I thought Doug Baldwin was an interesting comp, and again, had a pretty good NFL career. But the only thing that's holding Ladd back is really just his size. But if he was 6'3" or 6'2", 6'3", he'd be up there with all those other guys because the guy is he's a route running monster. And his hands, like if you saw some of the catches he made at the Senior Bowl, I mean, he turned a lot of heads. So he's my sleeper that can move up in the first round. I'm not saying at 6, but he's a guy that I think could move up in the first round or even early second round if the Giants, go a different route. He's not a bad guy, but again,
Don't discount the route run. I mean, I see, and it's challenging. I struggle to understand sometimes. Granted, that's why I'm obviously not out there on the field. I mean, I struggle to understand like what that sounds like something that's easier to work on. If you don't have the speed, well, of course, I mean, just figure out how to route run. But isn't you just run the route? Like, what's so hard about it? But I realize, every millimeter kind of matters there. So it's tough for us to understand. But a lot of the receivers that got great later in their careers, like went to a small school, then get drafted in the 6th round. I mean, that is kind of the bread and butter they have to work on.
Yeah, because it's a precision. Everything you're doing is precision. You're setting up the defender. You're making them think you're going one way. You're going somewhere else. Like, there's a lot of it that, unfortunately, a lot of people that receivers who are extremely athletic, extremely fast, they lack on their route running because they don't need it. They're going to blow up people with speed, and that's where, as they go along in the NFL, they don't progress to where they could because they don't work on their route running as much, in my opinion. So
you see that a lot, especially if they're in an offense. If they're in an offense in college, I mean, there are some offenses that are not very particular about the route running, just based on the nature of college football. It's a little bit wider in terms of the field that you're working with, and it changes the game. So some of the offense, it's a little bit tough to adjust. I mean, who was the wide receiver we had from West Virginia a couple years ago? Sills, Dave Sills.
Yeah.
There's a clear example. They didn't really have to work on his route running because that offense they ran, he's going deep every time. So he had 17 touchdowns at West Virginia, but that style of play just didn't translate, right? And that's a bit of a challenge. So maybe McConkey can really be that dude, capitalize on something that makes you different. And, if that's the route running, go for it.
Yeah. And again, if he turns into a Cooper Kupp type or a Doug Baldwin type, again, not gonna complain too much about it, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. All right. Hey, last dude for of the guys that you had as takeaways. Tell me about Troy Franklin out of Oregon. I mean, how did he couple with Bo Nix?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story because he adopted brother, or like their relation like that. So they are always in sync with each other. But what I like about Franklin and I mean, 6'3", 187. So again, you see the receivers I went with here are all, aside from Ladd, like they're all tall, right?
Yeah.
So he was averaging 17.1 per reception. Last year, it was 81 receptions, over 1,300 yards, and 14 TDs. So he's a playmaker. And he's that guy. He's the yak guy, and then he's that explosive play guy. So he's going to do he's a good route runner, and he can play slot and wide as well. So again, some guys with versatility, which is important in the league now. But what he does, and we were just talking about this, he's very smooth in and out of his routes, and he sets up the defenders well. So he'll get him where he gets him that separation, he gets things going, and he's a guy you can throw that quick slant to, and he can take it to the house. I mean, again, his speed, I expect that to go down. At the combine, 4.35 is right up there with elite speed. I think that'll get down. He'll probably get it to 4.3 flat. But it's a guy that he's that explosive guy. He's that yak guy. And he's another one that he can be that wide receiver one. You just got to give him the ball, get the ball in his hands, and he's decent size. So I like him. I know a lot of people are high on him as well. He's definitely up there. I know I talked about him last, but that doesn't mean he's last. In my eyes, of where he can go.
Not at all. Not at all. Kick and play.
Yeah.
What about so the only thing that was a little bit weird was you look back at some of Bo Nix's offense, like he was going short a lot of the times and relying on these dudes to run a long distance. I'll be honest, I haven't watched Franklin do that too much, but like yards after catch, is he pretty damn good in that area?
Oh, yeah, he's a yak guy, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
He's definitely a yak guy. But again, he was still averaging over 17 yards per reception. So combined yak, going deep. I mean, he's a huge yak guy. He's another one, bubble screens, quick slants, get him the ball. He's going to breakaway speed.
That was Oregon's offensive system, right? That was their system. That was Oregon's system. Short passes and let the guys play. And they put the ball in the playmaker's hands. That's what they did.
Yeah, they schemed to get guys open. That was their offense. You get guys open. That's a staple of that type of offense is get somebody open, let them make plays.
Then what's the staple of the Giants offense? The exact opposite? I mean, God almighty, we're never open.
We don't have an identity yet. Well, actually, I've already talked. Priscilla, I think is going to make a difference. I think we're going to see some differences next year with the line. You're going to have a little more time. You're going to have guys that can handle a stunt and a twist and all that. So I think we can. I think you're going to have guys that can do some stuff next year.
Yeah, things are so dysfunctional from the start to finish the offensive line. Like it's like it didn't matter who our receivers were. The quarterback can't get the ball off because the offensive line can't block. It doesn't matter who the receivers were, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And imagine you saw what Wandale could do with that limited line, limited whatever, and he's flashed out there. So, and he's now going to be 2 years removed from his ACL, so he should be even better next year. He flashed his rookie season before that. So you just got to get a couple guys to pair with him, get guys time, and those guys will get open. They'll do their thing.
I'm
It's
with
funny,
you.
Shawnee, it's funny you said that. I think that kid's going to have a breakout year next year because he had 65 receptions, I think, this year. And it didn't seem like he had that many.
No, and they didn't game plan him enough. That was the weird part. They should have game planned him more to get him the ball, get the ball in his hands more. Like I don't know why they didn't. It's nerve wracking that they did.
Hopefully,
I agree with you.
that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to break out. He's going to break out next year.
Cole, I'm a positive delight. I promise. I
What
am not
was he
down.
saying?
He can always trust me to be a ray of sunshine. I've been criticized for being too negative in the past.
Right.
I mean,
I got Craig today too with the whole CeeDee Lamb giving a shout out to Wandale. I make sure I let Craig have it. So I got you, man.
Oh, were you aware of that? Because you weren't on the program yet by then. Did you? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I know all about. Yeah. Well, listen, I was on the draft program with you guys.
You were. Yeah, you were on that show.
You were on that night?
You guys remember? It's on tape. I said I liked the pick. So I'm on record when he got drafted that I liked the pick of Wandale.
Spartan, we need to find that and clip it and play it on draft night.
Say no more. That is something I could totally do. It.
That
was so funny. He thought that was the worst pick ever.
Yep.
Ever.
His face, his expressions of disgust when he heard that pick. It was like,
don't get me wrong. I've had horrible opinions in the past. I thought Malik Willis at like the first pick. I'm like, yeah, that'd be a great idea.
It's coming, Kevin. Kevin, Kevin.
Yeah, it's coming, Kevin. Don't worry.
It's coming, Kevin.
Give me just a damn second, Kevin.
Right.
How are we doing on time? Oh, piss poor.
We're good.
All right. On to the next dude. Listen, I didn't think the Giants would draft Kayvon Thibodeau a couple years ago. I didn't think Evan Neal would be available a couple years ago. We got to bring up these names, even if it looks pretty clear that Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be the first non-quarterback taken in the draft, which might put him out of range for the Giants. So we don't know what'll happen, but let's just talk about what exactly makes Marvin Harrison Jr. special. The jump ball the dude has, and I shouldn't even say jump ball because he doesn't even need to jump. But when the ball is in air and he's under good coverage, 9 out of 10 times he's catching that ball. Like his fight for that ball against the cornerbacks is a success. I've seen him play in person, and it was one of those plays I couldn't even be mad at Michigan State because the pass was so beautiful, like the catch was so incredible that there's nothing they could do. I forgave Michigan State. There was nothing they could have done to stop this catch. And if you look at this dude's highlight tape, it's full of that. Just the ball gets near him, he grabs the ball. Best comparison is Calvin Johnson. That's what makes the guy special is, with every other receiver, I mean, it's very tough to fight for that ball. And, we're looking at other things, speed, can they yards after catch, stuff like that. With this dude, it's the fact that the quarterback can feel so confident in throwing that ball towards his area, and he will win that battle, combined with his good athleticism and his fantastic size. Like, it just makes him that, blue chip candidate at wide receiver. And, honest to God, if I was any team in the later rounds of the pick that's already a good team and well-established and wants to add another weapon, best move is to trade up if you can get in there because this dude's a hot commodity. And I implore you. Obviously, he's the biggest name in the draft. So there's videos out there. Giants fans, just take a look and watch the beauty of the dude's play. If somehow the Giants are lucky enough to fall, him to fall to them, he'd be a great pick. But even if not, I just admire the dude's body of work. I mean, truth, Sean, do you agree with me?
Oh, with that, Sean, you go.
Yeah, arguably, I think he's the best player in the draft. Arguably. I think he could be I know he's a receiver, but I think he could be the number 1 draft pick. That's how good I think he is. There's some people that downplay this, but here's what I'll say. And I'm old enough to watch his pops play at Syracuse.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate that he has a Hall of Fame dad. And the reason I say that is he's a better prospect coming out of college than his dad was back in the day. So
where did his dad play real quick?
Syracuse.
Syracuse, because they're both Philadelphia dudes. I know that.
Yeah, he played. I watched him. He was there with. He was at Syracuse. He was a good receiver, but not anything like his son is. So you have a Hall of Fame dad who's now teaching you the tricks of how to be successful in the NFL, and you're already this top prospect. Again, arguably in my mind, he's the top player in the draft.
And he is. I mean, this is 2 years in a row, by the way. I mean, he had plenty of playing time starting for Ohio State in 2022. I mean, he's had 2 years of just balling out in a conference, by the way, that's not like the most wide receiver happy conference in football. It's not like the Pac-12. It's not like the ACC. You don't really see a plethora of wide receivers go crazy in the Big Ten. But this dude was just tearing up defenses, good defenses too. And, his body of work is absolutely phenomenal. Truth, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, look, this guy, every game he had a target on his back. This guy, teams were planning to cover him and to stop him. And what did he finish with? 14. How many touchdowns did he have? Who has the stats in front of him?
I do not have his stats handy.
I think it had 14 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And that, I mean, he had a target on his back, and he always rose the occasion, and the guy can play, like Shawnee says about it. He catch the ball. He can run after the catch. He probably can block. He wasn't asked to, but I bet he can block if he had to. So he's a complete package. And he
didn't really have a quarterback this past season and still produced.
That's a good point, by the way. Ohio State's quarterback situation was awful. Like that was not good at all.
Yep.
And unless there's a freak accident in the draft with these GMs, he's not going to get to the Giants. There's not a chance.
Yeah. No. I highly doubt it. I mean, again, we'll see if any miracle happens, or if the Giants trade up. I highly doubt it for this play.
But, yeah, I don't think. Yeah, but I think teams will call if the first 3 picks are quarterbacks. Let's just say, I think teams will be calling Arizona to try to get.
I think so, him. But I don't think Arizona would want to trade back to.
I don't think so either.
And that's kind of the thing. It's like, look, you could almost build the offense. You got the wide receiver like this sealed. I mean, you can go from there with building the rest of the offense. So it'd be really tough to pass up on talent like this.
Yeah, if you're Arizona at 4, you're not passing up on Harrison Jr. if he's there. There's just no way.
Yeah,
no.
So on to the next dude here. So Malik Nabers, it's a little bit of a different situation with this dude because what makes Marvin Harrison Jr. so great and so special? It's different attributes for Malik Nabers. So the burst and explosiveness is phenomenal, and if you look and you watch his tape, the amount of separation the guy is able to get is truly his specialty. You combine that with, great range of motion. So, whether he's got to jump forward, backward, side to side, whatever the case may be, he has a really wide range of balls that he's able to catch, right? He's not going to give you that fight that Marvin Harrison Jr. does for the ball. Don't get me wrong, he's going to fight for it. But, he's got that yards after catch, athletic ability. He's going to be your kind of wide receiver. It's going to get separation. And, I'd love to see this dude go deep. Best comparison, Deshaun Jackson, prime, I'd say. That's kind of what I feel from the dude. What about you guys? What do you feel from him?
Yeah, John.
Because I don't remember his size, but when you were doing your research, I like him.
Yeah, he's not that tall.
Yeah.
He's 200 pounds though.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed. Again, I already said I would take Rome over Nabers at this point just because of the size difference and all that. He's not.
To double down real quick, I kind of prefer the 6'3" dude that's a catching machine a little bit more than the athlete at this point in time because we have Wandale. But I won't complain either way. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No, again, I think they can't go wrong if they take Neighbors if he's there. Like you won't be disappointed. It's a matter of your preference of the size and everything. I think he's got a lot of upside for sure.
Absolutely. Truth, what are your thoughts?
No, yeah, I mean, he's 6 foot, and again, this is what we're reading, and I think he is legit 6 feet, and he's not a little guy. He's well built, and like Shawnee says, if they pick him at number 6, I will not be unhappy. I'll be very happy with the pick. Giants are in a position. I know a lot of fans are upset about there's no guarantee of getting the quarterbacks, but there are a heck of a lot of good players that'll be on that board when the Giants pick comes. I mean,
yeah,
this is probably more talent than they had in the last few picks when they were picking low. These guys are these are players, especially offensive now. I'm talking about offensive players.
Yep.
They got some talent, so I'm not going to be worried who they pick.
Darius probably a good question. His Neighbors more like OBJ. I'd say so. The one difference being like, okay, Odell being able to make those crazy one-handed catches. Like I don't know if Neighbors really has that ability, but the separation thing definitely. The yards after catch, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say he's a little bit more like, Odell than perhaps a like Calvin Johnson type.
Yeah, Johnson's just a beast. Calvin Johnson was a beast.
Yeah, that was more like Harrison, right? He's going to grab every ball that comes near him.
Yeah, he was a beast. He was a big man. What was he like? 6'4", 230 something, and he ran like a 4.2.
Yeah,
Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
something like that, right? I mean, he was a beast.
He was a baller. He was a baller, man. But well, anyway, so we got 2 LSU guys. That was the first one, and then Kevin, I believe it was Brian Thomas from LSU. Again, we're flipping kind of back to the. He was very complimentary, by the way, of Malik Neighbors. Like it's very special for LSU to have had, a top quarterback and 2 elite wide receivers. I don't really know how they didn't own the SEC this year. I mean, they were good. Don't get me wrong, but I would have expected like prowess with this sort of talent.
If they had Georgia's defense, they would have.
Yeah, their defense and Billy and Kelly. That's why.
I guess so, man. The New Hampshire guy doesn't fit too well in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about Brian Thomas, we're back to the hands catcher. His body control is absolutely phenomenal. He is going to put up a fight for the ball. We're back to the bigger frame, 6'4". Any weakness he has is kind of typical of any dude of that size. Speed, a little bit limited. Routes, he does have to work on. And then ball security. That's the only other thing. I mean, if he's getting some of those balls, like the shorter ones, it's a little bit similar to Saquon. He has this issue too, where he's bobbling that ball a little bit in those short yard passes. He's got to clean that up because the last thing the Giants can afford is to have a dude on the team that's can't for sure horn in those balls and get some extra yards, right? Because that's what it's for. So that's something to work on. But otherwise, body work is absolutely excellent. I would have loved to have seen him on a team where he was the only wide receiver. Like he was the true number one and not Neighbors to see like what else this dude can do. But he's a phenomenal talent. What do you guys have on him?
Well, I like these kind of players that are kind of under the radar and they're second fiddle to the other guy. And we have a couple of them in this show. I like guys like this because I think Brian Thomas could be a good NFL player. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's got room to develop. I think he's another one of those guys that is a little bit of a late bloomer. But again, the size, I like the size. I don't think you go wrong with either one of those guys. They both produced, well. And it's the second time they outproduced Chase and Jefferson. Yeah, which is saying something.
That's incredible.
So, yeah. So I think it's really a preference at this point, and I to me again, I think the Giants need that taller receiver.
You know what? Statistically, why not just draft the LSU wide receivers? What's the success rate? 100%?
I mean, lately, yeah, right? Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Looks like it's been that way, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I think he's going in the first round. This kid, you know, between 20 and 30, I think this kid's going in round 1. So
I wish the Giants had an established like offensive line and quarterback. Because think about it, if like their biggest, like if they get that established, they're going to go after wide receivers in a bigger fashion. Like I would love the Giants to walk away with 2 of these dudes because they're so talented.
hey, they could.
They got 2 second-round picks, so I mean, it's
True.
in the 3rd round. Some of these guys, I mean, the odds are there, but
If tell you
never
what,
need-
if Carmen Brickolo can like turn around this offensive line, and we don't have to draft a whole bunch of dudes to do it, like he actually just tells people how to do their jobs properly, and they do it. Then the hell with it. Grab a quarterback, and then grab as many of these wide receivers as available.
yeah, if you can get 2, there's a guy late in rounds that I'll give a shout out to one of my guys in the group low. I don't know if he's watching tonight or not, but a couple of guys. He's really big on Pearsall later in the draft from Florida.
Yeah.
So if you get a guy like Rome or any of these guys we're talking about, and you get Pearsall later in the draft, you're pretty good. So there's some late round wide receivers. I think they should take 2 wide receivers if they can, because they can't.
Well, let me. I don't want to get off track here, but would you take, if you take 2 wide receivers, would you take one who could also play the slot? Even though we do have Robertson, if he gets hurt or, it wouldn't hurt having another guy who can play the slot.
Yeah, I take another slot guy. I mean, with
I
Robinson.
got a good guy sleeper for you on that one.
Yeah. And again, Sean, the thing is, I mean, Truth has been right about every like little prospect that he loves. He's completely damn right about. We got Bryce Ford Wheaton last year, and that was the dude that you really liked, the wide receiver stock last year.
Oh, yeah.
And again, Sean, I mean, I've said on the show 1,000 times, so Truth's probably getting sick of it. But like every dude that he loves goes to the Ravens, which means the Truth actually knows what he's doing.
Right?
Like, I mean, there was 2 years ago, 2 of them ended up going to the Ravens. I'm like, man, what the hell? Like 2 of like his surprise dudes, the sleepers, and so yeah, let's everybody pay attention to Truth.
Yeah, thank you, bud.
I'm just here to run the mouse. So anyway, on the Brian Thompson, again, good player, big body, very much different than Malik Neighbors. Very well could be a 1st-round pick. Devontae Walker, we're kind of back to again, yards after catch kind of guy. Athletic dude. He's listed at 6'1". I don't think that's true when I look at him. He looks a little bit shorter than that, but he's got a really wide range of motion in terms of his ability to get separation. And the one thing I really love from him that you just don't really see from everybody is balance. He's not even a very big dude, but he's able to keep balance after the ball and after catching the ball, and is able to stay on his feet even after getting hit. He's very good at it. I don't really know how he does it, but that's a feature that I really like in a wide receiver because I like a running back that can get an extra couple yards after they hit. I like a wide receiver that can do that as well. He does it a little bit more differently, though. It's not that he's being physical necessarily. He's just juking these guys or finding some sort of weakness and then exploiting it. And he does a very good job of it, sometimes breaking these tackles for touchdowns. So he's a very special player in that regards. But again, we're talking compared to a guy like, Marvin Harrison Jr. or anything like that. I mean, the catching in tight coverage, I haven't really quite seen it, right? That's not really his specialty. But what about you, Truth? I mean, any features about the dude that you like other than what I've listed?
Well, let me tell you something. If we had an average wide receiver class this year, and this guy was in it, he'd be talked about going, in the top tier, top 15.
Really?
Of the draft. Oh yeah, he's a good player. This guy, he really is. He's got good speed. He catches the ball. He runs a good routes. I mean, I think he's a good player. But it's such a deep draft. He's definitely a day 2 pick in my mind.
I think so. I think he's a day 2 pick, which doesn't. I mean, listen. Again, we're talking.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that as well. Is it a little bit more slot-like though? I mean, that's my concern.
Yeah,
and if they are going to get a slot receiver, I'd rather get a guy that can kind of ball out. Well, I don't know if 2nd round is really the time to do it, in my opinion.
I think he can play outside too. He struggled a little bit at the Senior Bowl, which is unlike him because he struggled with drops, and he didn't have that many drops in his college career. His season this year was weird because he wasn't sure if he was going to play. So you're dealing with that going on. But here's what I like the approach. If the Giants take May, then you get Walker. You do the Burrow Chase thing. You pair them up, get a guy he's comfortable with. They did well together at Carolina.
Yeah.
So if he's there in the second round and you've already got May, I'm okay taking this guy because you get him a good target for May, right? They have that relationship, they have that comfortability. He's got speed. He can do things. So we'll see.
Shawnee likes May, boy. That's the second time he mentioned May.
Listen, it's not that I mean, I like May. I like Jaden Daniels. Here's what I'll say: that I'm reading the tea leaves, right? Like the Giants have scouted May a lot. He's his size and everything, height, weight is very comparable to Josh Allen. So like I just reading the tea leaves. That's my thing. I think the Giants are high on May.
Wouldn't you love to just have a little like microscopic fly, like an electronic fly with like it just I want like little I want listening devices in the building. I just want to listen to every conversation going on at all times.
That would be awesome.
Here's one other.
Oh,
sorry, Truth.
That's
One
okay.
nugget that I'll bring up that I don't know if a lot of people saw, but at the end of the year, end of the season press conference, when Shane and Dable were asked about quarterbacks, scouting the quarterbacks, the look on Dable's face says there's somebody in this draft that he loves. He normally has a poker face, but he let a little smile slip out when that question was asked. I don't know who it is, but there's somebody in this draft that he really loves when it comes to quarterback.
It's going to be Spencer Rattler.
Hey, you get Dunze or Neighbors at 6. You get Rattler later on. That's not bad.
Swear
He's
to
the guy
Christ.
that's going to move up. So.
I said that because of Spartan. I said that because
You
of
want
Spartan.
you want to see me act like Craig after Wandale. See me after we draft Spencer Rattler.
Not at 6, but
No, but
yeah.
no.
We're getting there, Kevin. God, he keeps jumping the gun.
He is. All right, let's move on then. Here's a dude I really like. I love Adonai Mitchell out of Texas.
Yeah.
He's not the only Texas dude. Truth, you got the next one.
I do.
But again, like the amount of 6'4" receivers in this draft is incredible. We've covered so many tonight. But here we go. We got a dude right here that is super physical. And I like to see that. The dude kind of has a and I don't want to just harp on like their emotional presence and everything like that. They got to have good ability too. His route running is very good, kind of what we were talking about earlier with McConkey. And he's got good range of catch. That coupling with the fact that he is fighting for the ball like physically, it's one, a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., he's doing it a little bit more naturally. This dude is just putting up a fight. He's not going down easy with the tackles. And he's just so scrappy at wide receiver. You don't really see that level of play anymore. Now, he's got to be careful with, avoiding injuries, but my level of love for this dude, if he can get to if he can slip a little bit, huge. I love Adonai Mitchell. Of all the guys, I think he's more valuable than he's being projected to go. What are your guys?
Where do you see him going, Spartan?
Where? I mean, if any, if I would imagine between the first and second, like later first, early second. Really leaning more towards probably the early part of the second round.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like him too. I mean, what's not to like about him? It's not to like about him. He's a good player, catches the ball, he gets yardage after the catch. He's a gamer. What's not to like?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Speed is definitely not, exceptional here, but, we'll see how the measurements
fast
come
to
out.
be successful. I mean, there are a lot of guys who made in this NFL who were questionable about their speed, but they became very good, productive NFL receivers.
Yeah, and he's got good turn speed too. I mean, we talk a lot about just that straight run, but really what makes a wide receiver special is the ability to turn fast. Same thing with cornerbacks, right? He does a good job of that. So it does give me a lot of hope for the guy.
Yeah. I watched a lot of his games at Texas. He's a playmaker. Like that's, take the numbers, take whatever out of there. The guy's a playmaker. That's what stands out.
Absolutely.
About him.
Absolutely. He'll fight to make these plays too, man.
Yep.
I love that level of toughness.
Yep.
All right, Truth. On to your dudes. Xavier Worthy. How did he compliment Mitchell? What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh. I mean, talk about, like he's talking about in this draft, how many players and prospects played on the same team? There must have been, I think we have 6 of them, 6 pairs that paired up and were nightmares for secondaries in college football.
Of
This
14
kid-
dudes that we're looking at, 8 of them played with eight
All
of
right.
them are coupled.
8 of them. I said 6
Yeah,
pairs.
Washington, Florida State, Texas, LSU, and Washington, Texas, FSU, LSU.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, he's also a playmaker, Xavier
Yep.
Worthy, and he's got the NFL speed. We talked about speed. There's no question this guy has speed. He had I think he got clocked. It was a 4.29, and I'm curious to see what he does at the combine when he does run the 40. He had a pretty good year, I would say, 75 catches, right, over 1,000 yards. Touchdowns were down 5. He probably wanted to get a little better than that, but again, they were throwing the ball around because there were other options for the quarterback on that team. And this kid here, he runs good routes. I mean, I think he's in the same boat as the other guy, where I think he's going to get drafted around the same spot in mid first into early second. I can see him going in that direction, getting drafted around the same spot as the other guy, Mitchell.
Yeah, he's got to just work on his drops a little bit. But the special teams value he brings as well is another where it adds value to where he could get drafted, because he can be a difference maker in the special teams as well. But I like him too. I agree. I like both the Texas guys.
All right. Well, moving on to the second Washington guy. What are your thoughts on Polk?
Again, here's a guy playing the shadows, right?
You know what? I mean, this guy's projected to go high. So we say shadows, but like he's close. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he's not like a 5th round talent that played with a first.
No, he's not. He's not. Just like the other guys we mentioned. He's another guy's going to go somewhere. Probably go somewhere in the mid first into early second. There's going to be I think I saw I forgot who mock draft. It might have been Jeremiah, because he does like 100. Out of the 100 plays, they had like 20% were wide receivers. That's a high ratio. 20% of the top 100 were wide receivers. And here's another guy. He's not small either. He's smaller than Doomsday, but he was 6'2", 204. That's what it says on his card. And he had another good year. He had a good year, over 65 catches, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. And, he wasn't the main guy there, but he was one of the main guys.
But he's got great hands and yards after catch. I mean, that's the one thing that's really there to like about the dude, right?
Yeah.
6'2", it's not bad. I mean, especially for a guy that has that level of play for that height. I mean, generally those types are 6 foot or shorter, so that's pretty special. I'm very curious with we're going over 8 guys, and granted, 8 guys that were coupled. Of all these guys, they all did have pretty good quarterbacks. Here's another dude I wish he transferred or something like that, right? Like go to go to UCLA and let's just see how you do. But again, the quarterbacks help the receivers help quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, phenomenal talent here.
It is, and I'm one that always talks about stats. Don't get so caught up, and I know I'm talking about the stats right here, so which we have to do. But here's a kid I think he's going to develop into a good NFL player. I really believe that.
Kevin, real quick, grab some Joe and Pat's pizza. Shout out to Joe and Pat's. Shout out to Staten Island, best pizza in the world, right there on the Rock, baby. All right.
Tudo's in the house.
Oh, Tudo doesn't skip a beat, man.
Paisan.
Here he is, Shawnee. Should hook up with Italian National Rugby, Noisy Six Nations. Sean, are you Italian too?
Yeah, my grandmother was 100% Italian.
Man, what the hell? I feel I'm like the only one of Rush that isn't.
Well, is Alice Italian too?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't like Alice.
Actually, Chris probably isn't either. Yeah, never mind. The whole thing, scratch the whole thing.
So there goes the conspiracy.
Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. How about all right, back to Florida State. How about Johnny Wilson, man?
Big body, right? Big body, 6'7", 235. Big boy. What's that?
How tall is he? He's 6'7".
I think he's 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". I mean, anybody out there, look up the stats. I'm just going off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
he's 6'7". You're not smoking crack.
And they showed that he did under 4.5, 4.42 was his running time. Here's another guy that if he runs a good 40, he's going to turn heads. I mean, a kid that big running good 40. If he runs low fours, like 4.4, like here, maybe high 4.3, 4.39. I mean, he's going to turn heads. The only thing about him is that issues with separation. And that could be a problem at the NFL level, when you have much more talent at the cornerback positions. So that could be something to see. But he is a big guy. There was talk about maybe he could transition into a tight end. I don't know if he can or not. He probably could. I don't know. I know he can block well, but that's on corners and safeties. I don't know how he'll block on an end or an edge rusher. So. But I still think he's a good player. And again, if this was a weaker draft with wide receivers, we'd be talking first round with this guy. But I think he's a late second round going into the third.
Yeah, listen, I will say this though: I don't want him just drafted because he's 6'7".
Right.
You all know the reason why. Ruben Randall. Like, I am a little gun shy of like, oh my god, this dude is so freaking big. Could you imagine? Get him? Go. I mean, do you think he's better than Ruben Randall when he was drafted in the second round?
Well, I know Ruben Randall had a pretty good college career at LSU. That's where he played, right? LSU?
Yeah, he was the one LSU receiver that didn't make it the last decade.
Listen, you hope has a better NFL career than Ruben Randall did. He just totally lost when he got to the Giants. But I think he'll be a serviceable NFL player. What do you think, Shawnee?
I would say that 40 time at his height is really good, and if he gets it down, because you said it was a 4 or 5,
4.42 is the best he did.
4.42. I mean, at 6'7", 4.42 separation. You don't expect a lot of guys 6'7" to separate well. So at the NFL level, he's going to tower over a lot of the guys. So how's his? I know he did well, and he gets. I don't want to say overshadowed, but Coleman gets a lot of the talk because of what he does and all that. I don't remember, how is he a good contested catch guy? Because if he doesn't get separation, but he's a great in contested catch, you can overlook that. Because you're 6'7", run a 4.42. I mean, that's really good.
He is. To answer your question, he is.
Yeah.
That's one of his positives, strengths. He does well contested 50-50s. He does well.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, 6'7", 4.42. I mean, there's a lot to like about that. And if he's a good route runner, and again, separation is going to be hard with a guy 6'7". So maybe you transition him on the inside, lining him up like those athletic tight ends, like a Waller or somebody like that, and mismatch against a linebacker or somebody else. Then, he could be a matchup nightmare potentially if you use him right. That's the key.
Right system, in the right system.
Yeah.
I just I want to know, can he be a good receiver without being 6'7"? Because I guess that was kind of the problem for Ruben Randall. He was good, but it was the height that kind of got him there over the edge. I would love to know that this dude can ball out regardless. If he's 4 inches shorter, he'd still be a D1 wide receiver. That's tough. It's tough to assess.
We'll never know.
Randall didn't run a 4.42. I don't believe, right?
What's that?
I don't think he did.
Randall didn't run that fast. So if
he was not fast.
So. And how tall was Randall?
4.55, and he was 6'6".
He was 6'6". All right.
Hey, for the record, Hakeem Nicks only ran he did not have a particularly good 4-yard dash. I forget what it was.
He had large ass hands though. That's what made Nick so good. He had hands I've ever seen.
Big hand, good route runner. He was a king.
Yeah.
All right. You're gonna have to help me with this one, Truth, because we're down to the wire. Malachi Corley. Western Kentucky.
He's a player.
They did have a good quarterback for a few years there. He's gone though. I think he got drafted last year. He's a backup in the NFL. Tell me about this wide receiver. I mean, I haven't heard of him. Well,
he runs good routes. He catches the ball, gets yardage after the catch. He's built like a brick. Okay, he's not very tall. I think he's 5'10" maybe. By the way, he's 215. At least that's what it says. So you think of him, I think of Steve Smith, that kind of body frame. It's almost like a running back when he gets the ball in his hands. When I look at his tape, he played a lot in the slot, but he did play outside as well. He moved around. How that translates to the NFL, I don't know. If he can do both in the NFL level, just wait and see. But this kid can play. He's an excited kid when he has a ball in his hands. He's a good player, and he's another one. I see a day 2 pick with him, mid to late, probably late third.
Listen,
I know he's getting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Truth.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I mean, sorry. Go ahead, Spartan.
No, I just know to do that again. I mean, he did excel more in 2022 with that quarterback than he did in 21, but not by that much. He had more yards, but touchdowns was the same. I mean, looking over, I mean, I'm attracted. Again, I love a dude that balled out, even without really a good quarterback situation. I need to watch more tape to really know his pros and cons. But go ahead, Sean.
I was just say he's a guy that's been getting talked about a lot more here lately. You see him in draft reports, mock drafts, that he's really, and I think as the combine comes around, he'll get more there as well. So I think you'll hear more about him as we get closer to combine.
Is this a true comment right here? Corley is slot only in the NFL.
It all depends who drafts him and what they think. I mean, it all depends.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Steve Smith would have been a slot guy, but he played on the outside. He was 5'10", 5'9".
Yeah, 216 is good size. I mean, that's good size.
That is.
All right. Well, we're down to the last guy that I believe Kevin brought up earlier, Brendan Rice.
Yeah.
Something about this,
yes.
what's interesting is I'm not hearing his name as much, and this is coming from a program that had one of the top quarterbacks. I would have expected USC to have this type. So tell me about him.
Yeah, and anybody who doesn't know, yes, he is related to Jerry Rice. He's the son of Jerry Rice, and that's a plus. Okay, let's not discount that. Like Shawnee talked about Harrison, growing up with a father, NFL player. It has to rub off on you on the way you act, the way you respect the game, and I think those guys respect the game.
Well, I think having those pointers too about how you should work on things, what you should focus on from a guy who's already been through it helps, right? Well, I was surprised. How old is Jerry Rice?
He's got to be about my age now.
Yeah, and
he was taking what draft? Was he taking what draft?
1985?
No,
earlier than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 81 or 82.
1985.
He was taking 85.
You got it? You sure?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Then he's younger than I am.
Quit jousting with me, damn it. No, I was just a little surprised. I was trying to do the math. I'm like, man, Jerry Rice has this. I mean, it's not, we don't have to get into that, but it was like, oh, okay. A little later than I would have thought him to have a son playing. But anyway, tell me about him. Did he ball out? What was the level of play that he had?
Look, the numbers weren't bad. He's a big kid. He's 6'2", 212. That's what I'm seeing. That's what they're showing. And he ran a 4.38. Now, we'll see in reality when he does to the combine. And he had stats aren't overwhelming, especially when you see who he had for a quarterback. He had 45 receptions, a little under 800 yards, and only but he had 12 touchdowns. All right, so maybe he makes the catches when he needs to. From the games I saw, and I didn't see a lot of games, I just saw more tape of him. He attacks the football. So when he goes for the football, he doesn't wait for the ball to come to him. He gets the ball. He attacks it, and he runs without the ball, meaning that he has good route running. And he actually made that Bruce Feidman's freak list. You guys know about this?
Yeah.
This guy has a freak list. He has all these players, and this kid made it. It doesn't say where he was on the list, but it's based on guys who do freakish things for their size, based on speed, strength, and all those kind of intangibles. But here's a kid. I see a late day 2 pick with him. Maybe with all the other talent, he could slide into the early third day. But again, there's so many guys we're leaving off that I think we could have talked about 25 guys tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're right. The problem that he ran into this year was that the offense broke down so much that it turned into a backyard offense a lot of times. And he's from what I see or hear, he's a very good route runner. So he may have been taken out when the play breaks down because USC's O-line wasn't great either. And then you turn into a scramble drill. So I think that could have impacted. But he's another guy that I've been hearing more and more, like with Senior Bowl and as we're going on. Again, I think his name will come up as we move along, get closer to draft, closer to the combine.
A little strange though, but you know who said that comment about the like USC's offense kind of breaking down, and then it always seemed like Caleb Williams was just launching. That was you, Sean. That was a good point. I never really quite thought about that, but you're right. It always looks like things would go haywire, and then Caleb was left scrambling to make a play out of it, which he would. But like it wasn't like just a true regular like here's your normal route of the whatever the hell you want to call it. So it's really tough to assess everybody on that team. Yeah. Obviously, Caleb's a great player, but like I guess that's why it's like, well, he made things happen that were miraculous. But like for the receivers, it's hard to assess those dudes.
Yeah, which is weird for a Lincoln Riley system because everything is predicated on guys getting open, scheming to get guys open. So when things break down, it's hard to assist. So and I believe, Truth, if I remember correctly, didn't he start out at Colorado and then transfer to USC?
He did, yeah, he did. And he had some playing time there too. He wasn't, I mean, it wasn't significant, but he had a few touchdowns while he was there.
Like so many of these guys, they played in multiple colleges, Not many have stayed in one school.
When we cover the quarterbacks, I mean, one of them went to 3 schools, that Purdue guy.
Yeah.
Purdue, Cal, Louisville. Like, I mean, God almighty. Receivers a little bit less because if you're already doing fine at your program as a receiver, you generally just stick through it. I mean, unless you're not dealing with a good quarterback. Then you transfer your senior year.
Yeah, Spartan, second from the bottom, Kevin threw up one guy that could have easily been brought up in this topic. Yep. That's how deep this draft is for wide receivers. A guy like Roman Wilson we left off. A very good player. Very good player. And Shawnee, I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants picked 2 wide receivers. I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't either. I really wouldn't. Well, especially when you think of who they're letting go for receivers. They're not going to bring back Campbell. They're, whoever else.
Unfortunately, it may not be, what's his name? Oh, God, I'm drawing a blank. The guy who they picked up last year on waivers. Oh, my gosh. The guy who
Campbell?
didn't play a lot this year.
Campbell or
Campbell? Oh, Beasley?
Who?
You talking about Cole Beasley?
No. Big guy, 6'4".
Oh, Colin Johnson?
No, he got hurt. Holy God. Guys out there, help me out here. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, yeah. Oh God, Hodgins, Isaiah Hodgins.
That's it, Hodgins.
But I was thinking this past year.
I couldn't get that name in my head. I'm wondering about what his fate's going to be because even earlier when we brought up the wide receivers, we didn't mention him. We just mentioned a couple of guys. We mentioned Hyatt and Robinson and Slayton. We didn't even mention him.
Truth. When I look back, I mean, one of the most important conversations and shows that we had this past year. You, me, and Alex did one where we just assessed every player and like what the expectations would be for 2023. His was probably the most disappointing, and I don't know how much is on him and everybody else, but he went from showing like he was going to work towards being like the number 1 receiver for the Giants to flat out being like a non-factor whatsoever for us at all. That was tough. That was the toughest one. So you're right; it's really up in the air with him.
Yeah, and he was a factor at certain times too. So again, here's. When we talk about wide receivers who they're going to draft, if they don't figure out a better wide receiver rotation, a lot is not going to matter. Like to me this year, the wide receiver rotation made no sense, 0 sense.
Well, I think they got to stop rotating, period. Who's your wide receiver 1, 2, 3? And then, you switch guys through, like you switch the 3 and 4 guy here and there, but like it's too much.
Yeah.
They're throwing too many guys in there. It's kind of looking like one of those basketball teams where they're over rotating.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. So again, if they take a wide receiver, maybe that'll shore some things up. They'll go with a set and get some guys some blows here and there. But yeah, stick with your best guys. I think Hodgins, that's that guy that gets overlooked because he doesn't have the speed. Like a lot of Giants fans overlook him. It's like, oh, he's not fast. He's an excellent route runner. He knows how to get open. He does well against zone coverage, finding it. Like he can find the hole in the zone. Like that's what's important. So,
And by the way, we had him on the show, and he was a really cool guest because he
Yeah.
comes from his dad was a football coach,
Oh.
and him just talking about like everything that really, it's not like he's been through anything tragic. It's just more like hearing his road to the NFL and all the steps that he had to take to get there and constantly improve, like that constant framework of improvement with him is something I really admired about him. He was one of the coolest guests. I was on the show that night, but that was a really cool one.
yeah,
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah, I hate to see him be a casualty, but
I know, especially because it's like I had hope he would be like the one guy that developed into a good player for us, kind of like O'Hara did in the 2000s, like a free agent development.
If they do draft a wide receiver like where we think they will, and if Bryce Ford Wheaton emerges as a talented player that I think he is, I mean, it's going to make it a very competitive camp for the Giants. And usually they keep six wide receivers. How many keep this year? 6? Was it 6 or 7?
6 is generally the number.
Okay, it's going to be tough. It really is.
And the one thing I'll say, which is weird, we don't know what the Giants think or Kafka or Daboll thinks about a wide receiver one. They may not think they need one, right? Like,
you're right.
What's your identity offense? Is Waller
Is
that Waller the wide receiver one? Is that who you're banking on? Like, again, we don't know. I mean, I'd love to see a wide receiver one. I mean, again, you brought in Diggs to Buffalo. So you look at that, but you have the Kafka influence where they had Kelsey and they traded away Tyreek Hill. So who let's just find an identity on the offense. And then, it's fun to talk about. Yeah. Bring this guy, do this wide receiver. But I think you said it, Spartan truth. There's no identity to this offense at this point. So let's get an identity. Can we get that?
Right. Figure out figure out the guys that should just be out there permanently as wide receivers, really, in my opinion. Everybody's got to step up and work towards improving. There's a lot of work to be done at receiver. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the foundation of the offense is going to really come from the offensive line and the quarterback.
Yep.
And this may not be the best year to, go full speed at being like, all right, it's receivers or bust. We're not there. But listen, I mean, if we're going best available and we're outside the quarterback range, I mean, the wide receiver room is looking hot.
Yeah, and another thing, I haven't looked yet. We don't know how strong next year's wide receiver class is going to be. So, sometimes when you have something like this, you don't want to pass it up, especially in a position. You don't know where the Giants will be picking next year either. So
I guess the thing that makes it tough is we don't know. I mean, the quarterback situation will likely get worse too. I mean, let's just face it. This is an offense. I mean, the Giants are in need of offense right now. Our defense, in my personal opinion, can compete. And this is the year to draft offense.
I agree. And you wonder if they see Jalen Hyatt as their wide receiver one, because they were excited to draft him last year. If you remember, if you showed the Giants or whatever, like they were high on him. They were thinking about taking him over JMS at one point, kind of going back and forth. So maybe they view him as that wide receiver one and just work on it. You don't know, but I'd love to see, again, you get a little more offense there going, add it up and get some weapons. Cause I think you got some guys playing above where they should be. And this isn't a knock on Darius Slayton, but he's a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, who has to be a wide receiver 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Right?
And Hodgins was the same situation.
Yeah.
I mean, wide receiver 2 at best, who was the wide receiver 1.
I think one day will be that wide receiver 2. I think that's where he's going to end up. And if you find a wide receiver 1, you get Hyde 3, Darius, Slayton at 4, where those guys can be more successful. They're not asked to carry as much, right? Like Slayton can be successful in that wide receiver 3 or 4 because he's not asked to be a wide receiver 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Amen.
He can do things. That's my thought.
I want to give Kevin ask the question, any other sleepers that we should be checking out? I had one, a kid out of Virginia, Malik Washington. He's a slot guy, but he's explosive, big playmaker, catches the ball, a lot of yards after the catch. There's a kid, keep an eye on him, late round pick. Could be an exciting player to watch at the NFL next year.
Duly noted. All right, guys. Hey, look, this has been an awesome show. And Sean, again, thank you for coming on as a guest. Sean, we're going to have you on, obviously. I mean, I call you a guest. Sean's going to be on here a lot throughout the season. Historically, we've kind of rotated additional, the rest of the Rush family in one by one, but Sean's going to be on a lot. So, Sean, Dan, we look forward to the, I said fall. I look forward to this spring, man.
I think Sean, you're coming on and talk about the edge and defensive end. I think that's the next one. And I know you like that position. You told me you liked it, so
I do. Yeah.
Do you like edges?
Yeah, I do.
I fancy a good edge. All right, guys. Hey, have a good one, guys. All the fans that came out tonight, appreciate it. Peace, guys.
All right, guys.